Hi, my name is Ashley and I'm a mom of two little girls. I have a 5-year-old named Kylie and I also have a 3-year-old named Mia. Now, beyond my own childhood days of playing Monopoly in Candyland, I think that for the better part of my adult life, I have really disliked playing board games and card games. Basically, if given the choice between doing one of those things or anything else, I would almost always have chosen anything else. But that has completely changed since I've become a parent, especially in the last couple of years as my girls have gotten a little older and they've become interested in and capable of playing games. And I have come to realize that there are so many benefits involved in playing games, especially for young children. Not only just, having fun and the bonding time that you get playing games with your children, but also things like developing fine and gross motor skills, learning how to follow rules, practicing turn taking, and developing cooperative social skills, hand-eye coordination, and then actual academic learning opportunities like color and shape recognition, counting and mathematics, vocabulary and language, science, cultural awareness. There are so many benefits. So, from one busy parent to another, today I would like to share with you some of our favorite board games for toddlers and preschoolers in our Montessori home. So when it comes down to it, there are really two different kinds of games. So the first kind are the traditional games. These are the ones where there's a very clear winner and loser at the end. And then there are cooperative games where the players are working together to achieve a common goal. And there isn't a winner or a loser. Everybody's on the same team. And in the Montessori approach, we definitely lean more so toward the cooperative style games because there is an emphasis on peace education in the Montessori curriculum at school, which can also be carried over into your home environment as well. And we kind of just want our homes to be our children's safe haven. We don't want them to constantly have to worry about competition with anyone else, especially with other siblings in the home. We want them to be able to learn how to work together peacefully to resolve conflicts and to problem solve. So again, leaning more toward the cooperative games, but that doesn't mean that you can't introduce traditional style games to your children either. Now, when you do decide to introduce your children to traditional style games, a good rule of thumb is to keep things friendly. Teach them about good sportsmanship. There was a quote that I read in a children's book. I cannot remember for the life of me which one it is, but there was a phrase that said, "It's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game." And that's something that really resonated with me, and I kind of picked it up and I use that phrase all the time now when we are playing games like that, just to remind them that the emphasis is not on whether or not you've won or lost the game, but to really think about their feelings and their attitudes toward the other players as they're playing. And that seems to really help, so definitely feel free to borrow that if you think that's something that will work in your home as well. Another question that often comes up for parents is, what about letting my child win? Like if we're playing against each other and I know obviously I'm much better at it because I've been playing it for much longer and they're just learning, should I let them win? And my answer to that is if you're playing a cooperative game, you don't have to worry about that at all. But if you are playing a more traditional style game, I would say my personal approach, and I've found it to be pretty successful, is to strike a balance. You don't want to let your child win every single time because you're giving them this false sense of their abilities. And a lot of times children see through that. And it doesn't feel good to win knowing that somebody has let you win, if you know what I mean. So I would definitely lean toward playing honestly and fairly against your child. But I think we can all agree that as adults, if we played to the best of our ability every single time, there's a pretty good chance that we're going to win every single time and our child is always going to be the loser. And for young children, I feel like this is really disempowering. I guess some children might feel that that's a challenge to be risen to, I guess, and when they finally win, it feels really good. But I feel like in the learning stages, it's okay to kind of play down your ability to a degree so that you're kind of leveling the playing field. Maybe you make a couple of honest mistakes similar to the way that they might as you're playing so that it actually gives them a chance to win on occasion and they can feel how good that feels. But you're not doing it every single time so that they're always the winner because again, that's going to give them a false sense of what they're actually capable of and we're not trying to lie to our children either. It's definitely a balance that has to be struck if you decide to do it that way. Now, I'm not going to go on record and say that that is like the official Montessori approach to playing games. That is just my personal approach that I have found to be really successful with my children as they have learned how to play games and their strategies have become a little sharper, and then I can start to play a little more naturally like I would. And we're a lot more equal as opponents when we play those kinds of games now, and it's really enjoyable for everyone. And then one more thing that I wanted to put out there for you is that you can actually transform traditional style games where there's normally a winner and a loser into more cooperative style games simply by changing how you play them. Not always, but a lot of the time you can do this. So what I mean by this as an example is you can simply focus on the my turn, your turn aspect. And then once the game is complete, you're not declaring a winner. It's just, okay, we're all done, the game's over. Or you can actually work together as a team to try to beat the clock to achieve a common goal, which is to finish the game, as opposed to working against each other. So now that we've gone over some of the basics when it comes to games in a Montessori home, I now want to share with you my favorite board games for toddlers and preschoolers. Now, as a side note, I do actually own some of these games and I play them with my children all the time. And then some of them are on our personal wish list. But again, I would never recommend anything to you that I wouldn't actually have in my own home and use with my own children. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start with all of the cooperative style games. And the first one is called Monkey Around, the Wiggle and Giggle game. This one is great for toddlers who are just learning how to play games for the first time. It's something that you can play with your child, and the basics of it is that you draw a monkey card. There's an action on it that you either do with your child or by yourself, and it's supposed to be silly and fun. You do the action together, and then you put the card on the tree, and then you move on and do it again and repeat until you've gone through all of the cards. So very easy and simple, and a hit with young toddlers. The next game is also great for 2-year-olds. It's called Get Up for Pup. And in this one, it's similar to the monkey game, except that there's a spinner involved, and your child or you have to spin the spinner to find out what the action is that you're supposed to take. And then you're supposed to do that action while you're feeding these little bones to various puppy cards. And once you've gotten through all the puppies, then you can start over and do the whole game again. The next game is also for that 2-year-old age group. It's called Acorn Soup. So in this one, it comes with a pot and a wooden spoon, some ingredients, and recipe cards. And you have to sit with your child and look at the recipe card that's drawn, and it tells you exactly how many of each ingredient to count out and to place into the pot. The next game targets the preschool age group, 3 and up. It's called Friends and Neighbors, the helping game. And it's basically a matching game that focuses on emotions. So each of the players gets a card, and then there's a helping bag with little tokens inside. And what they have to do is reach into the bag and pull out a token and see if whatever is on the token is something that could possibly help some situation that's going on their card. For example, a boy who's afraid of the dark. So they might pull out a flashlight, and that would be the match for that particular spot on their card. It's a really simple and fun game that I really like because not only is it cooperative, but it also really helps your child to develop those empathy and compassion skills. The next game is for ages 4 and up. It's called Hoot Owl Hoot. This is a really cute one where all the players have to work together to try to get all the baby owls safely back into the nest before sunrise. So each person is taking turns drawing different color cards, and then as they're working their way strategically through the game board, they can work together to figure out which owl they should move to the next color card so that it is closer to the nest, and ideally so that all of the owls are back in the nest on time. This next game is similar in strategy. It's called Count Your Chickens, and the idea here is that you're getting all of the baby chicks on the farm safely into the chicken coop before the fox finds them. And so everyone's working together toward this common goal, but instead of the focus being on color recognition as it was in Hoot Owl Hoot, this one is about counting. So you're spinning the spinner to figure out how many spaces you have to move to get to the animal that it lands on, and then however many spaces you move is the actual number of baby chicks that you get to put back safely into the coop. So Count Your Chickens targets that 3 and up group, as does this next game, which is called Snug as a Bug in a Rug. Now, I really love this game. This is one that we play all the time in our house. There are actually different levels of ways to play it depending on your child's skills and abilities. So it can actually grow with your child over the course of a couple of years. But at its very basic level, the idea is that there are a bunch of little colored bugs that have different shapes and sizes of eyes on them and numbers of shapes. They're all different. And each player takes a turn spinning the spinner to decide which bug is going to go under the rug. And the idea is for everybody to get all of the bugs under the rug bug before all 3 of the stink bugs come out. Otherwise, the stink bugs win. This game really can add another level of challenge for children who are ready for it. So you can be looking at just a single quality like color, or you can be looking at color and number, or color and shape, or number and shape. You can do it a bunch of different ways. So again, it can grow with your child, and that's something that I really like about it. The next game is for ages 5 and up. It's called Outfoxed. This is a whodunit mystery clue style game. The idea is that there is a guilty fox somewhere who has stolen a pot pie and is trying to make his way to the foxhole on the other side of the board. Everybody has to work together to sort through all of the clues that are available and evaluate the different suspect cards to figure out who is the guilty fox that has the pie, and to try to figure that out before he gets to his foxhole. The first time that I played this game with my girls, I will admit I was like, this is a little complicated, but after just one game, they both picked it up. They know how to set up the entire game board now, and they love playing it. So I would definitely recommend this one. It is a house favorite. There are also a whole bunch of memory and matching style games that you can play with your child. Again, you don't have to focus on there being a winner and a loser. You can transform it into something cooperative by just focusing on the my turn, your turn aspect until all of the tile cards have been matched. Along similar lines, you can also turn bingo into a cooperative game if you make sure that all of the cards that the players all have the same things on them. Even if they're mixed up and in a different order, they're all the same. This way, each time you call something for the bingo card, everybody gets to put a token down, and then everybody gets to call bingo at the same time if you're playing whole card bingo. Now, I have yet to find a version of this that is commercially available for you to just buy and play. If anyone knows of one, please let me know in the comments down below. But I do know that there are a whole bunch of these style bingo games available online that you can print out and laminate and use with your kids at home. I have actually done that, and it is just as fun. So I will try to find a link to at least one of them, and I will link it down below so that you can see what I'm talking about. All right, so now let's move into the traditional style games, where there is going to be a winner and a loser if you play the game how it is intended to be played. And the first one, I think this is one of the earliest games I ever purchased for my girls, is the Melissa and Doug Catch and Count fishing game. So for this one, each child gets a colored fishing pole, and there are a bunch of little magnetic wooden fish that are different colors and numbers. And then there's a spinner that you can spin and decide which color of fish to catch or which number of fish to catch. And the idea is to, I think, catch as many fish as you can, although, to be honest, we don't always play it that way, but that is the idea. Another classic favorite in our home is the game Sneaky Snacky Squirrel, which is for ages 3 and up. This one really focuses on color recognition. The idea is that you have a bunch of little acorns that are different colors and little logs, and each person has to fill up their log as fast as they can with all of the different color acorns. It also works on hand-eye coordination because there's a pair of like squirrel tweezers that you can use to pick up the acorns and put them in your log, and it's an overall really fun first game. Another game that's made by the same company but is for the 4 and up age group because it involves a focus on mathematics is called Shelby's Snack Shack. So for this one, you have a bunch of little bones that are scattered on the beach and a pair of dog tweezers to pick up those bones. Each player gets a little colored dog bowl, and there's a spinner where you actually spin twice. One side you spin to decide what is going to happen, like if you get to pick up bones or if you lose bones, and then the other side is to decide how many, so you spin for the actual quantity. And so again, focusing on counting and mathematics skills, involves a dog theme. It's really cute. We love it. Next up is a fan favorite game called Shopping List, which is technically for 3 and up, but I have definitely played this with my younger daughter back when she was still 2, very successfully with modifications. The idea is that each player gets a separate shopping list and a shopping basket or cart, and there are a bunch of food cards that are placed face down in the middle of the playing area. So memory style, you have to go around the circle and everybody gets a chance to turn a food card over to see if it's something that matches their shopping list. If it does, then they get to keep it. First person to fill up their entire cart actually wins the game. But I have also played this cooperatively, where we've left the food cards all face up, or we've turned them face down but helped everybody to work together to fill up their shopping carts before the end of the game as well. The next game is for ages 5 and up. It's called Sum Swamp. This one focuses on really foundational mathematics skills like addition and subtraction, recognizing odd and even numbers, counting, things like that. And each player gets a chance to roll the 3 dice that come with the game. One is an operation die that has like plus or minus on it, and the other two are numbers. So they get to add or subtract the two numbers that they get to find a sum or a difference, and then they move their character that many spaces. There are also some other rules around which spaces you land on and the whole odd and even numbers thing, but it's a really fun one. Both of my girls enjoy it, although my 3-year-old does need some assistance in playing. My 5-year-old is completely independent in playing it, and I like it because she's getting extra mathematics reinforcement without even realizing it. The next game targets the preschool age group from 3 to 5. It's called Sequence for Kids. In this one, everybody gets a different color of tokens and then a set of animal cards that match the ones that are on the board. And the idea is that you strategically play certain animal cards that you have in your hand. You get to put a token on those animal card spaces, and the goal is to get 4 in a row of your tokens before anybody else does. Next are just traditional style bingo games. There are a ton of them commercially available, but some of our favorites are Zingo and Zingo sight words for a little bit of extra vocabulary reinforcement. The girls really like the Zingo games because it comes with this little zinger thing that provides like a little bit of an extra hands-on tactile element to the game. It's fun for them. And then also rhyming bingo, where you're actually drawing out rhyming words to match on your bingo card. So again, some more vocabulary and language development, which is always a bonus. Next up is a game that is not a board game per se, but it's one that we play all the time. So I thought I would share it with you guys. It's called Polina. And so for this one, you've got this little wooden bamboo cage with all of these bamboo sticks that have colors on the end. It comes with a set of wooden balls that match the colors. And the idea is that you put all the sticks in there so that it holds the balls on the top part. And then there's a die that you can roll to figure out which color of stick you have to pull out. And your goal is to pull out a stick and have as many of the balls drop down to the bottom as possible, and the person with the most balls at the end wins. Next up are scavenger hunt style games, because kids love scavenger hunts, and there are a couple that I would recommend that I think are good for that younger age group. One of them is called Found It. There's an indoor and an outdoor version, but it's got pictures of things that your kids need to go look for, either indoors or outdoors. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And then there's another one called Go Find It, which is more of a nature-focused family scavenger hunt game that you would do outside. The next game is another card game that I have played so many times at this point with my girls that I could probably play it in my sleep, no pun intended, because it's called Sleeping Queens. And in this game, each player is dealt a hand of 5 different cards that could be just plain number cards, but they could also be what they call power cards that actually do something. They have a certain function based on what it is. And the goal is to overturn as many of the sleeping queens as you can and be the person to have the most number of queens or the highest point count of queens at the end of the game. Now, it does say that it's for 8 and up, but I disagree because my 5-year-old loves this game, can set the whole thing up by herself, and has completely mastered it after, I would say after the first couple of times we played it, she had it mastered. And now I'm starting to see that my 3-year-old also has figured out how to play the game. And for the most part, she can play it independently now with my 5-year-old just by themselves, which is really cool. The next game is for ages 3 to 6. It's called Guess in 10 Junior. There are actually 4 different versions of this game, like themes. One is Community Helpers. Another one is The Food We Eat. Then there's Animal Kingdom and Inside My House. And for this game, there are a whole bunch of different game cards. You draw one, and whatever the animal or the community helper or the food is that's on the card, the other player has an opportunity to ask up to 10 questions to figure out what the thing on the card is. And in order to help guide them in their question asking, there are 10 guider tiles that have pictures on them so that they can say, like, is it yellow, is it brown, is it pink, or does it eat meat or does it eat plants, things like that. So it can kind of guide them in their question asking. And the goal is to be the first person to successfully guess 7 of the game cards to be the winner. And then finally, when it comes to card games, definitely do not forget about all of the classic card games. My girls love them. Things like Go Fish and Slapjack and Old Maid and Crazy Eights. These are games that we bring with us when we're traveling that are super quick and easy to play, and they're learning how to play them together independently, and they're classics for a reason, so definitely don't forget about those. And for the last couple of games that I want to share with you, I'm gonna steer it back toward classic board games now, and I wanted to start off by mentioning chess and checkers. Again, super classic games that maybe at first glance you might not consider for the preschool age group, But depending on your child, they absolutely can learn how to play, at least at a basic level. It does require a little bit of strategic thinking, which would come with time and practice. But I would definitely say that it is not impossible for a preschooler to play these games with you, especially if it's one that you enjoy playing and they have lots of opportunities to practice. I think my older daughter started playing checkers when she was about 4, and she also recently started learning how to play chess too. So don't leave those out of your considerations when you're thinking about games. Which brings me to my very last category of board game suggestions, and these are just like the classic standard kids board games that a lot of us probably grew up playing as well. Things like Hi-Ho Cherry-O, Chutes and Ladders, Candyland, Connect 4, as well as charades for kids. Now, I know this video is about board games, but I really just could not end the video without mentioning a couple of like the more physical hand-eye coordination type of games, because I know my girls really enjoy them. So just some ideas for you, things like a classic game of ring toss. Also, cornhole is a really popular one, bowling for kids, and also the jumbo Jenga sets that like almost like it's like building a block tower, but you know, with Jenga involved. So it's really exciting for them. But yeah, so that is my entire game list in a nutshell. If you're still watching, thank you for hanging with me. I have put all of these games in my Amazon storefront in the games category. So if there was anyone that I mentioned that you're like, oh, that sounds kind of interesting, then you can find that link in the description box down below and go check it out really easily. So I hope you found this list of game suggestions for toddlers and preschoolers to be helpful. If you did, then be sure to give this video a thumbs up. And if you'd like more practical tips and advice for implementing Montessori at home with your children, then you might consider subscribing to my channel. This way you don't miss a new video. My new book, The Montessori Home, Create a Space for Your Child to Thrive, is now available in paperback, ebook, and audiobook on Amazon and in all major book retailers. I also offer several e-courses, an online community just for Montessori parents, and live video consultations. So links to all of those resources are in the description box down below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.